Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about something real today. Something that's messing up relationships left and right. When a man and a woman don't connect, it's not just a small problem, it's the problem. When a man and a woman don't connect, one of the first signs is the breakdown of communication. Communication isn't just about talking, it's about understanding, listening, and responding in a way that makes both people feel heard. When communication starts to fade, the relationship begins to suffer in ways that might not be obvious at first, but over time, the distance becomes undeniable. At the beginning of a relationship, conversations flow effortlessly. The excitement of getting to know each other keeps the connection strong. Both partners are eager to share their thoughts, dreams, and even the smallest details of their day. There's a natural curiosity, a desire to understand what the other person is feeling and thinking. But as time passes, life's responsibilities, stress, and routine start taking priority. Conversations become less about connection and more about logistics. What bills need to be paid, who's picking up the kids, or what's for dinner. The depth starts fading, and what used to be engaging discussions turn into quick surface-level exchanges. One of the biggest reasons communication breaks down is that people stop feeling safe to express themselves. A man might feel like every time he speaks, his words get dismissed or criticized, so he withdraws. He starts talking less, keeping his thoughts to himself, because he feels like they don't matter. On the other hand, a woman might feel unheard, like she has to repeat herself before she gets a response. She might feel like her emotions are being minimized, so over time, she stops sharing them. In both cases, silence replaces words. And that silence can be louder than any argument. Misunderstandings also start creeping in when communication weakens. A simple statement can get misinterpreted, leading to unnecessary conflict. A woman might say, "You never spend time with me anymore," and a man might hear it as criticism rather than a plea for connection. Instead of responding with reassurance, he shuts down or gets defensive. Likewise, a man might express frustration about something unrelated to the relationship, but his tone or body language makes the woman feel like he's upset with her. Without proper communication, assumptions replace clarity, and those assumptions create even more distance. Technology also plays a huge role in communication breakdown. Instead of talking, people turn to their phones. They scroll through social media, text friends, or distract themselves with entertainment. What used to be conversations about feelings and experiences get replaced by silence filled with digital distractions. A couple can be sitting in the same room yet feel miles apart because their attention is elsewhere. Over time, this lack of meaningful interaction creates an emotional gap that keeps growing. Another reason communication fades is that people stop prioritizing it. At the start of a relationship, making time for deep conversations comes naturally, but as life gets busier, partners assume they already know each other, so they stop asking questions, stop checking in. The problem is people change. What someone needed emotionally a year ago might not be what they need today. Without open and ongoing communication, those changes go unnoticed, leaving one or both partners feeling unseen and unappreciated. Sometimes the issue isn't the lack of words, but the lack of meaningful words. Conversations may still happen, but they're empty. A couple might talk about work, bills, or the kids, but they don't talk about their feelings, their fears, or their dreams. Without emotional depth, the relationship becomes transactional rather than intimate. It turns into two people coexisting rather than truly being connected. When communication weakens, small problems turn into big ones. Resentments build up because they're never properly addressed. Instead of expressing frustrations when they arise, partners hold them in until they explode in a heated argument. By that point, it's not about solving the problem. It's about unloading months or even years of built-up frustration. The emotional weight becomes too much to carry, and that's when the real damage begins. Emotional disconnection in a relationship doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, silent process. where two people who once felt deeply connected start drifting apart without even realizing it. It's not always about fights or big arguments. Sometimes it's just about not feeling seen, heard, or valued in the way that truly matters. When a man and a woman don't connect emotionally, the relationship starts to lose its depth, and both partners begin to feel like they're just going through the motions. One of the biggest causes of emotional disconnection is neglect. In the early stages of a relationship, both partners are intentional about making each other feel special. There are constant gestures of love, attention, and effort. A man listens intently when his woman speaks, making her feel like the most important person in the world. A woman supports and encourages her man, making him feel respected and valued. But as time passes, these small acts of love start to fade. The effort that was once second nature becomes an afterthought. Compliments become rare, affectionate gestures decrease, and meaningful conversations get replaced by routine discussions about responsibilities. This shift might not be obvious at first, but over time it creates a sense of loneliness within the relationship. When a woman doesn't feel emotionally connected, she starts to withdraw. She may still be physically present, but emotionally she starts to shut down. She no longer shares her thoughts and feelings because she doesn't feel like they matter. She stops expecting comfort or reassurance because she's learned that it won't come. This can be confusing for a man who assumes that everything is fine as long as there are no arguments. But in reality, silence is often a sign of deeper problems. A woman who was once expressive and open now seems distant and uninterested. She still loves her partner, but she no longer feels emotionally safe enough to express that love in the same way. For a man, emotional disconnection often feels different. He may not always express his emotions in the same way a woman does, but he still needs to feel appreciated and respected. When he senses that his efforts are going unnoticed or that his role in the relationship is being taken for granted, he starts to pull back. He may become quieter, spend more time at work, or distract himself with hobbies and other activities. To his partner, it may look like he doesn't care anymore, but in reality, he's just reacting to the lack of emotional fulfillment he feels. A man wants to be needed, not just for what he provides, but for who he is. When he no longer feels that sense of purpose in the relationship, he begins to detach. Another major factor that contributes to emotional disconnection is unresolved hurt. Every relationship has moments of disappointment, misunderstandings, and mistakes. When these issues are not properly addressed, they start building walls between partners. A woman who has been hurt by a past argument or an insensitive comment may still be carrying that pain even if she hasn't spoken about it. A man who feels unappreciated may still be holding on to that feeling even if he hasn't expressed it. Over time, these unspoken wounds create distance. The more unresolved pain there is, the harder it becomes to reconnect. Life responsibilities can also take a toll on emotional intimacy. Work stress, financial pressures, parenting duties, these things can be overwhelming. When a couple is constantly focused on managing life's demands, they often forget to nurture their bond. They become partners in responsibility rather than partners in love. They may sleep in the same bed, eat at the same table, and share the same home, but emotionally, they are worlds apart. There's no more excitement, no more deep conversations, no more looking into each other's eyes and truly seeing one another. Instead, there's just routine, obligation, and a growing emotional gap that neither person knows how to close. The presence of emotional disconnection doesn't always mean the love is gone. More often than not, both partners still care deeply for each other, but they don't know how to bridge the gap that is formed. They may not even realize how much they miss the connection until it's nearly gone. What was once a relationship filled with laughter, passion, and deep understanding now feels empty. Conversations feel forced, time together feels obligatory, and both people feel lonelier than they ever expected to feel in a relationship. One of the biggest reasons a man and a woman stop connecting is because their needs are not being met. Men and women often express love and seek fulfillment in different ways, and when these differences are not understood or prioritized, frustration, resentment, and emotional distance begin to take over. A man desires respect, appreciation, and a sense of purpose in the relationship. A woman craves love, emotional security, and attentiveness. When either person feels like their needs are not being met, the relationship starts to suffer in ways that are not always obvious at first. A man wants to feel respected above all else. Respect to him is not just about words. It's about how he is treated, how his efforts are acknowledged, and whether he feels valued in the role he plays. When a man feels respected, he is naturally more affectionate, attentive, and engaged in the relationship. But when he feels criticized, controlled, or unappreciated, he begins to withdraw. He may not always express his frustration verbally, but his actions will show it. He may spend more time away from home, become less involved in conversations, or immerse himself in work or hobbies. He pulls back, not necessarily because he doesn't care, but because he feels like he is not being given the space to be himself. A woman, on the other hand, wants to feel loved in a way that reassures her emotionally. Love to her is not just about being physically present. It's about being emotionally available, engaged, and affectionate. She needs to feel heard, valued, and prioritized. When a woman feels truly loved, she is naturally more open, warm, and giving in return. But when she feels ignored, dismissed, or taken for granted, she starts to shut down emotionally. She may still go through the motions of daily life, but the energy, enthusiasm, and affection she once brought to the relationship start to fade. She might stop initiating conversations, stop sharing her thoughts, and eventually stop expecting anything from her partner at all. One of the biggest mistakes couples make is assuming that what makes them feel loved is the same thing their partner needs. A man might think that providing financially or fixing problems around the house is enough to show love, but his woman may be yearning for emotional connection, kind words, or quality time. A woman might think that constantly reminding her man of what needs to be done or offering advice is helpful, but he may see it as a lack of trust in his ability to lead and provide. When both partners keep expressing love in ways that don't resonate with the other, they begin to feel unappreciated, unseen, and misunderstood. Over time, the gap between them grows. The man starts feeling like no matter what he does, it's never enough. He may stop trying to please his partner because he feels like his efforts are always met with complaints instead of gratitude. The woman, on the other hand, feels like she is constantly giving but not receiving emotional fulfillment in return. She may stop expressing her needs because she believes they will never be met. This leads to a cycle of disconnection where both partners feel unfulfilled but don't know how to bridge the gap. When these needs are ignored for too long, small issues turn into bigger problems. A simple request for more time together might turn into accusations of neglect. A desire for more affection might be mistaken for neediness. A request for respect might be seen as controlling behavior. Instead of understanding each other's needs, partners start resenting them. They start feeling like they are being asked to be someone they are not, instead of being appreciated for who they are. The more misunderstood they feel, the further they drift apart. In many cases, both partners still care about each other, but they have stopped communicating in ways that actually fulfill each other. They assume their partner knows what they need instead of expressing it clearly. They wait for the other person to change first instead of making the first move to reconnect. The more this continues, the more distant the relationship becomes, until one day they wake up and realize they feel more like roommates than soulmates. Distractions have become one of the biggest reasons why men and women stop connecting in relationships. In today's fast-paced world, people are constantly pulled in different directions by work, social media, television, and everyday responsibilities. What used to be moments of real connection between two people has now been replaced by screen time, endless to-do lists, and external pressures that keep them mentally and emotionally occupied. The result is a relationship where two people may be physically present but emotionally absent. At the beginning of a relationship, distractions are minimal. Both partners prioritize each other, setting aside time to talk, laugh, and build their bond. There's excitement in spending time together, and every moment feels special. But as time passes, the outside world starts creeping in. Work becomes more demanding, responsibilities increase, and instead of focusing on each other, partners start focusing on everything else. The little moments of connection, like sitting down for a meal without interruptions or having deep conversations before bed, slowly fade away. One of the biggest distractions today is technology. Couples can be in the same room, sitting next to each other, yet completely disconnected because they are glued to their screens. A man may come home from a long day at work, and instead of talking to his partner about his day, he scrolls through his phone, watches TV, or plays video games. A woman may feel neglected, but instead of expressing it, she also turns to social media, browsing through endless posts and comparing her relationship to the highlight reels of others. These small habits, when repeated daily, create a silent emotional distance. Neither person is intentionally ignoring the other, but the distractions take priority over meaningful connection. Work is another major distraction that pulls couples apart. Many people are so focused on building their careers, achieving their goals, or simply making ends meet that they forget to nurture their relationships. A man might spend long hours at the office thinking he is providing for his family, but in the process, he neglects the emotional needs of his partner. A woman might be managing a busy household, juggling multiple responsibilities, and by the end of the day, she is too exhausted to engage in meaningful conversations. Over time, work and responsibilities become the main focus, and the relationship starts feeling like a secondary part of life rather than a priority. Social obligations can also become a distraction. Friends, family, and social commitments start taking up time that was once reserved for the relationship. A couple that used to spend weekends together now finds themselves constantly attending events, visiting relatives, or catching up with friends. While these things are important, they can sometimes leave little room for quality time as a couple. When partners no longer have time to be alone together, to share their thoughts and emotions without external influences, they slowly begin to drift apart. Even daily routines can become a distraction. The repetition of everyday life, waking up, going to work, handling chores, and managing responsibilities, can create a sense of monotony in a relationship. When a couple stops doing things that bring excitement and joy, their time together starts feeling like an obligation rather than something they look forward to. The effort that was once put into planning special moments, date nights, or meaningful conversations gets replaced by routine habits, making the relationship feel stagnant. Stress is another distraction that prevents connection. When a person is mentally preoccupied with financial worries, work pressure, or personal struggles, they may become distant without even realizing it. A man who is stressed about his job may seem uninterested in conversations, not because he doesn't care, but because his mind is elsewhere. A woman dealing with emotional stress may withdraw, making her partner feel like she is shutting him out. Instead of leaning on each other for support, partners begin dealing with their problems alone, creating an invisible wall between them. Over time, these distractions accumulate, and the relationship becomes more about coexisting rather than truly being together. The excitement and passion that once brought them close start fading, replaced by habits and routines that leave little room for emotional intimacy. Small moments of connection, like holding hands, looking into each other's eyes, or simply sitting in silence without distractions, become rare. Instead of feeling like partners in love, they start feeling like two individuals living separate lives under the same roof. Trust and intimacy are the foundation of any strong relationship, but when a man and a woman stop connecting, both of these begin to fade. It doesn't always happen in an obvious way. Sometimes trust isn't broken by a single big mistake, but by small, consistent disappointments. Intimacy doesn't always disappear overnight. It slowly erodes when partners stop making each other feel valued and desired. When trust and intimacy weaken, the relationship starts to feel empty, leaving both partners feeling disconnected and unfulfilled. Trust is built through consistency. In the beginning, both partners put effort into keeping their promises, showing up when needed, and making each other feel secure. But as time passes, small breaches of trust can start to add up. A man might forget to follow through on something he said he would do. A woman might stop confiding in her partner the way she used to. Little by little, these moments create doubt. It's not always about dishonesty. Sometimes it's about emotional reliability. When one partner starts feeling like they can't depend on the other in the same way, they begin to pull back emotionally. Communication plays a big role in maintaining trust. When couples stop talking openly, assumptions take over. A woman may feel like her partner is distant, but instead of asking him what's wrong, she assumes he doesn't care anymore. A man might notice his partner being less affectionate, but instead of addressing it, he assumes she's losing interest. These unspoken thoughts create unnecessary tension. Without clear communication, both people start questioning the relationship in their own minds, which can lead to further emotional withdrawal. Intimacy is more than just physical closeness. It's about emotional and mental connection. It's about feeling comfortable enough to be vulnerable, to share thoughts, fears, and dreams without hesitation. In the early days of a relationship, intimacy is natural because both partners are invested in learning everything about each other. They talk for hours, ask deep questions, and show genuine curiosity about each other's lives. But when intimacy fades, conversations become shallow. Instead of sharing feelings, partners stick to surface-level discussions about daily tasks and responsibilities. The emotional bond weakens, making physical intimacy feel like an obligation rather than an expression of love. Emotional intimacy often fades before physical intimacy does. A couple might still share the same bed, but the closeness they once had feels distant. A woman who doesn't feel emotionally connected may struggle to be physically affectionate. She may no longer initiate hugs, kisses, or simple touches because she doesn't feel that deeper bond anymore. A man, on the other hand, might interpret this lack of physical affection as rejection, making him withdraw even further. This cycle continues until both partners feel unwanted, unappreciated, and unsure of how to reconnect. Another major factor in fading intimacy is a lack of appreciation. In the beginning, both partners put effort into making each other feel special. Compliments, thoughtful gestures, and small acts of love happen naturally. But as time goes on, appreciation is often replaced by expectations. Instead of feeling grateful for what their partner does, people start taking it for granted. A woman who used to admire her partner's efforts might start focusing more on what he doesn't do. A man who once cherished his partner's emotional support might stop acknowledging it. When appreciation fades, resentment takes its place, making intimacy feel forced rather than genuine. Unresolved conflicts also play a huge role in weakening trust and intimacy. Every couple has disagreements, but when problems are left unresolved, they create emotional distance. A woman might hold on to past hurts, even if she hasn't voiced them, and this unspoken resentment can make her less affectionate. A man might feel criticized or unappreciated, making him less willing to engage emotionally. Over time, these unaddressed issues create a wall between partners, making intimacy feel more like a duty than a desire. External influences can also affect trust and intimacy. Stress from work, financial pressures, or personal struggles can make a person emotionally unavailable. A man dealing with career stress may become distant, leaving his partner feeling neglected. A woman overwhelmed with responsibilities might not have the emotional energy to be affectionate. When partners don't support each other through these challenges, the emotional gap between them grows, making it even harder to rebuild intimacy. The loss of trust and intimacy doesn't always mean the love is gone. Often, both partners still care deeply, but don't know how to express it anymore. The warmth, closeness, and passion that once brought them together start feeling like a memory rather than a reality. Instead of feeling like lovers and best friends, they begin to feel like strangers. sharing the same space. When a man and a woman stop connecting, loneliness can become a silent force that eats away at the relationship. Loneliness doesn't always mean being physically alone. Sometimes it's about feeling unseen, unheard, or emotionally distant, even when someone is right beside you. A relationship that once felt like a source of joy, comfort, and companionship can slowly turn into something that feels isolating, leaving both partners wondering how they drifted so far apart. At the beginning of a relationship, loneliness is rarely an issue. There's excitement, deep conversations, and a strong desire to be close. Both partners go out of their way to make each other feel valued. They listen intently, make time for each other, and prioritize the relationship. But over time, life's responsibilities, unresolved conflicts, and emotional disconnection can create a gap. This gap isn't always obvious at first, but it slowly grows until one or both partners feel completely alone in the relationship. One of the biggest causes of loneliness in a relationship is the lack of emotional support. A woman might feel like she is carrying emotional burdens on her own because her partner no longer asks how she's feeling. She may want to share her thoughts, but if she constantly feels unheard or dismissed, she stops trying. A man might feel like his struggles and worries don't matter because every time he tries to open up, he feels judged or misunderstood. Over time, both partners stop turning to each other for emotional comfort, choosing instead to keep their feelings to themselves. This silence creates an emotional distance that makes the relationship feel empty. Another reason loneliness creeps in is the loss of quality time. A couple may still live under the same roof, but they rarely spend meaningful moments together. Conversations become short and transactional, discussing bills, responsibilities, or schedules, rather than sharing dreams, fears, or personal thoughts. The time that was once spent laughing, talking, and creating memories gets replaced by routines, work, and distractions. Without real connection, even sitting together in the same room can feel lonely because the emotional bond that once existed has faded. Physical affection also plays a huge role in making a person feel loved and connected. When a relationship loses its warmth, hugs, kisses, holding hands, or even just a kind touch on the shoulder, loneliness sets in. A woman who once felt cherished by small gestures of love may start feeling unwanted. A man who once felt desired may start questioning his importance in the relationship. Physical closeness isn't just about intimacy, it's about reassurance, security, and a reminder that love is still present. When these gestures disappear, loneliness deepens, even if both partners still care for each other. Unspoken expectations can also create loneliness. A woman may expect her partner to notice when she's feeling down, but when he doesn't, she feels neglected. A man may expect his partner to appreciate his efforts, but when she doesn't, he feels unrecognized. Instead of expressing these needs clearly, both partners assume that the other should just know what they need. When those needs go unmet, disappointment turns into frustration, and frustration turns into emotional withdrawal. Over time, this withdrawal creates a silent distance where both partners feel alone in their own thoughts, even when they are together. Loneliness can also stem from unresolved conflicts. When problems are ignored or brushed aside, they don't disappear, they just sit beneath the surface, creating tension. A woman who feels unheard in an argument may stop expressing her feelings altogether, making her emotionally distant. A man who feels like his opinions are never valued may stop engaging in conversations, leading to further detachment. When partners stop resolving their issues and instead choose to avoid them, they start feeling like they are navigating the relationship alone rather than as a team. The sad truth is that many people in relationships don't even realize they are lonely until the emptiness becomes too heavy to ignore. They wake up one day and feel like they are living with a stranger. They miss the laughter, the deep